Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome. A very warm welcome to everybody who is joining us today, all colleagues who are joining us from the Free State and Mangaung, as well as anywhere in the country. You may be logging on from any other province. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Happy Ngidi. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Proudly South African, and I am also the Program Director this afternoon. I'll be facilitating the session rather. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to our very first public sector procurement forum for the year 2022. Many of us have come back hitting the ground running after taking some time off over the festive season period. And it's great to be back on this platform this afternoon to carry on the discussions regarding public sector procurement. And this afternoon, I would like to also extend a very warm welcome to our speakers in no particular order. Welcome to MEC, Khadija Abrahams-Brown, MEC Free State Provincial Treasury. Always such a pleasure to have you back on this platform chatting to us. Thank you so much for hitting our call and accepting our invitation so graciously. Thank you. We thank you so much, MEC, and a special welcome to Ms. Catherine Matisa, who is a colleague from the DTIC and who takes care, who is in the Industrial Development Division of the DTIC. And as usual, Catherine, always a pleasure to have you join us for this discussion as well. And Mr. Zukisa Nkonzo, he's auditor from the South African Bureau of Standards, also a friend of the campaign. Fantastic to have you once again on this platform to kick off this procurement discussion for the very first time this year. And a colleague of mine from Proudly South African, Executive for Strategy, Stakeholder Relations and Legal, Ms. Janine van Straten, who will be representing Proudly South African. Welcome to you as well, Janine. Great to have you here. And last but not least, we will be joined by Mr. Silomore, who is Acting City Manager, Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality. Fantastic to have everybody here this afternoon. Just to say that briefly, that this is a continuation of our effort as Proudly South African to create an enabling environment for us to get together and have a discussion regarding the challenges that we as a country keep facing when it comes to local procurement, and what we are obligated, or what the our colleagues who are sitting in offices where a lot of procurement happens for their respective offices and or provinces and offices, is that we today serves as a reminder of what the obligations are, what you're expected to do, what the policy says, what the do's and don'ts are, what the repercussions are, and all of that. That this is really the purpose of this discussion, but we are also looking forward to hearing what the Free State and Mangaung, what inroads they're making, what their respective officers have what their respective offices have put in place to assist colleagues to be able to comply, and what has happened since the last time we spoke to them, to the province in particular. So without further ado, please allow me to welcome our first speaker from the Policy Making Office, Ms. Catherine Matitsa, who represents the Industrial Development Division within the DTIC, who will, will be the first speaker to address us this afternoon. Welcome, Catherine. Always a pleasure to have you with us in this session. Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Program Director. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to be part of this important event. And for those of you who haven't, whom we haven't interacted this year, compliments of the new season. My presentation will be short. It's on local content policy. As the chairperson has already alluded, it's a reminder. Some of you might have seen the presentation many times. It's just to remind you. And colleagues, I'll be co-presenting with my colleague Tafadzwa from the agro-processing sector desk of the branch Industrial Competitiveness and Growth, the former IDD, Industrial Development Division. Chair, is the presentation reflecting on your side? I'm going to switch off the
Yes, it is.
video. Okay. In my presentation, I'll take you through the policy and regulatory context, just to give an overview, and I'll give you an update with regard to the products that are designated to date, and I'll take you through the implementation process, looking at some of the documents that are used in implementing the local content policy. We'll talk about the compliance, and towards the end, my colleague Tafadzwa will come in to talk about the furniture as one of the designated products. Just to give you an overview for the sake of those who have interacted with the DTIC, the DTIC, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, is a national department. We're based in Pretoria, and unfortunately we don't have regional offices. And we are the custodian of industrial policy. Our mandate, it's very clear. It's to enable transformation of the South African economy through industrial development. And in our industrial policy toolbox, we have a number of instruments, policies and strategies in place to carry out our mandate, one of them being localization. And under localization, we have local content and production policy.
Hello.
Yes. Sorry about that. I don't know. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. Under in the localization, we have local content and production policy, the policy that I will be presenting on today. The essence of localization is to encourage the replacement of imported products with locally manufactured alternatives. Localization on its own is a broad concept, and in the context of South Africa, localization is a collective process by government, private sector, and labor aimed at building local industrial capacity for both the domestic market and the export market. So on localization, local content and production, what do we mean by local content and production? Local content and production is that portion of the products whose manufacturing processes takes place in South Africa. It takes into consideration the entire value chain from the raw materials, the manufacturing process itself, until the finished product. In a nutshell, local content is mainly about the products that are manufactured within the borders of South Africa using raw materials that are produced in South Africa. And in public procurement, we've identified public expenditure as a lever to assist the country in industrialization. Government is the largest buyer in the country, as it spends over 500 billion on goods and services and construction works. So as government, we've identified that this expenditure can assist us to resolve some of the socio-economic challenges that we are faced with as a country. Hence, we have introduced the local content and production policy, which is embedded in our buying legislation. As you are all aware that as government, our buying or procurement is legislated through the public procurement, preferential procurement, the PPPFA and its regulation. Therefore, the current regulation, the preferential procurement regulations that we use under Section 8 talks to the local content and production. In other words, provision is being made for promotion of locally produced products in our buying space. 8.1 of the regulation gives powers to the DTIC to look at sectors where we have sufficient local capacity and set them aside for local procurement and define minimum thresholds local content. In other words, specify the local content percentages for those products. 8.2, it talks to all organs of state to say where the DTIC as a department has pronounced a particular product to be designated for local production. When they go out on tenders, be it RFQs, quotations, or formal open tenders, they need to specify the local content requirements. And 8.3, Regulation 8.3 talks to the National Treasury as the custodian of supply chain management in government to say their role is to inform all organs of state time and again when the DTIC designate a particular product about the decision of designating, meaning they need to issue out a circular informing all organs of state that this particular product has been designated and these are the minimum thresholds local content. And 8.4, it gives powers to all organs of state in their buying where DTIC has designated a particular product to call for local content, and there are conditions under which they can self-designate, for lack of better word, to say in doing so, the organ of state will have to liaise with the DTIC for some form of control to call for local content in areas that are not yet designated by the DTIC. That in a nutshell means that you are not limited to the products that are designated by the DTIC to call for local content. If we look at our buying, our expenditure, we consume a number of products. So far, the DTIC has designated only 28 products, meaning that if we are to make an impact with localization or local content, we'll have to extend the local content content requirements in other areas that are not yet designated, and provision is being made in our regulation for that falls under regulation 8.4. 8.5, it's very clear, and it talks to the evaluation to say that bids that do not meet the local content requirements shouldn't be considered, meaning they must be disqualified during evaluation process. And in the evaluation process, local content is the first hurdle. Only bids that meet the required local content can be evaluated further in the process, meaning first stage, one must meet the local content requirements to be considered on price and BEE and other elements, evaluation elements. So from the regulations themselves, it's very clear that compliance with regard to local content, it's at various stages, starting with the bid invite. 8.42 talks to that to say organs of state, when they go out on bids, they need to inform the bidders where there is a designation to say in this particular quotation or tender, there are products that are designated, and these are the designation percentages, local content percentages required, and only locally manufactured product will be considered. So it starts with the invite, and the organ of state need to inform the bidders in advance. The bidders, when they respond to the requirements, they will have to complete the local content declaration forms, which is the SPD 6.2, together with the associated annexures, the annexure C, D, and E, indicating their level of local content for the products that they are quoting with. And that information must be submitted at the closing date of the bid together with the bid document. And for the organs of state during evaluation process, they are required to consider local content, meaning they are required to evaluate local content as part of the first stage of evaluation. And out of that pile, out of the responses, only those that meet the local content requirements can be evaluated in other steps. And after the adjudication and the award, the organ of states are required to report back to the DTIC with regard to the successful bidders' local content declaration. Therefore, organs of state, after they've awarded the bids that contain in them local content requirements, one of the requirements for them is to report back to the DTIC, so that as the DTIC, we can consolidate this information and report to our principals with regard to the impact of local content policy. And on a quarterly basis, we report to Parliament, to the Portfolio Committee for Trade and Industry on the progress with regard to local content. So implementation of local content is not new. It started way back in 2011, following the signing of the local procurement accord by government, labor, and the private sector, where they all committed that they are going to achieve 70% of local procurement. And government committed that they are going to increase their spend on local goods and services, meaning 70% of their expenditure would have spent on procuring goods and services that are manufactured or produced, grown in South Africa. And SABS was appointed to be our local content verification agent, and they developed a standard for calculating local content and measuring local content. And DTIC then started with only 5 products in 2011, and the first set of instruction notes were published in 2012, July. And over the years, we've been adding to the list of the designations, and currently we're sitting at 27 products designated. And on this slide, we're reflecting the 27 products designated to date. and the dates on the last column of the table. The latest designation happened last year around November. It was with the cement. The minimum threshold local content for cement is 100%. And my colleague will talk to the furniture products. As we all procure furniture, it cuts across all sectors. Furniture, we started with the implementation in November 2012. And it's been some time, and we currently reviewing this designation, because the intention of designation is to increase on localization. When we started with the designation, some of the minimum threshold local content was said to be low, but over the years, the industry has managed to increase on their local content, and we are currently reviewing the percentages local content on the furniture space, and my colleague will talk to that. I've already touched on the post-award reporting, and the current regulations have remedies for non-compliance. They've outlined a process to be followed in terms of when non-compliance is detected. It's upon the organ of state to inform the tenderer or the bidder accordingly if non-compliance is detected, and to give them an opportunity to make representation within 14 days. And if it's concluded that surely there is misrepresentation of information, if it's during the evaluation, the organ of state can disqualify the bidder. If it's after award, they can terminate the contract in whole or in part and claim damages from the tenderer, and also escalate that matter to National Treasury to restrict the tenderer and list them under the register for restricted suppliers. I would like to pause here and give an opportunity to my colleague to talk to the furniture a bit. Thank you, Program Director. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Catherine, much appreciated. There was a question on the platform before Tafatswa comes in, whether we could share your presentation with the attendees, and the answer is we generally do that. So after the session today, we will email the presentation to the attendees. Welcome, Tafatswa. Looking forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thanks, Happy. Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time to talk to this audience, but I know that you've heard about designated. If you can allow me, I'll switch off my video so that I concentrate on my presentation. Thank you. Oh gosh, I don't see. Okay, so furniture was designated in 2012. It was one of the products that was designated first, and is one of the products that the state procures. I think almost every organ of the state, they procure furniture. And school furniture has been designated, as well as office furniture and bed and mattress. On the school furniture is designated at 100%. I think so far it has been going on well, but we encourage the province to ensure that most of the school furniture that is being procured is actually local. We do have SABS that does the verification. So we would want those verifications to be done to ensure that the furniture that is being procured is is local. On the office furniture, we've had thresholds since there is a wide variety of office furniture. Hello, did you lose me? Okay.
We can hear you now, Tafatswa. We've lost your presentation.
Okay, let me reload it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can you see the presentation now? Can you see
Yes,
the
we can.
presentation?
Yes, we
Okay.
can. Please go ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on the office furniture, we've had a wide range of variety of thresholds, starting from 65% going up to 100%. However, in the past 2 years, we've been engaging with the industry, and we realized that some of our thresholds, they actually need to be revised. So there was a new instruction note that was, which allows us to exempt. And then also now we have applied to, we've already submitted this to the National Treasury, and these are, my apology for that. These are our increased thresholds. So on the chairs, office chairs, we are proposing that we increase our thresholds from 95% to 100%. Previously, we were as low as 65%, but we've been informed that these chairs can be produced at 95% local content up to 97%, up to 100%. And then on the occasional chairs in the waiting area, the proposal that we've submitted is starting from 69% to 100%, from 95% to 100%. And this is just to cater for small things like the handles of the drawers, and also in some cases where we don't have that manufactured locally. We also always have inquiries on the canteen furniture where entities are procuring aluminum tables and chairs. We usually then engage with the procuring entity to say, can you try wooden tables or wooden chairs, as well as plastic tables and plastic chairs that can be manufactured 100% local. I'm sure most of you've been to churches where there are benches, and those benches have been there since time immemorial. So wood is strong. So we're trying to run away from these imported aluminum tables and chairs that are usually used in the canteen. And we engage the procuring entity to revise their spec and put wooden tables and chairs or plastic tables and chairs. So we're hoping that we will be getting the approval of the increased thresholds, and that will be circulated soon. And then to assist the procuring entities, what we have also done is we have drafted a guideline that will help you to check what is the local content threshold for this item that I need to procure. So we have circulated that with other provinces, and I'm sure possibly you've also received it, because we used the list that is sitting with Catherine. And if you've got inputs on the document, we can share with it after also the presentation. You can give us the inputs, but what we're doing is that we're going to be also making that available to procuring entities so that they can check the thresholds, and as well as they can also contact us should you need any guidance. Thank you very much. I end here. Thank you. So that was my presentation. Happy.
Thank you so much, Tafatswa, for your debut. Like you said, it was your first presentation here at this platform. We are looking forward to working with you on this going forward. And let me just see if there's any question for you or for even for Catherine. And no, that we still have that request to share the presentations on email, to send the presentations on email. Thank you so much. Now, in the absence of questions and comments, but I do want to encourage our colleagues that are online to please, to send us, to engage with us. This discussion is more for them. And we encourage you to please, be involved, send comments, send questions. If you need clarity on any of the stuff that is being presented, by all means, please engage us, and we'll do the necessary. So with that said, I would now like to welcome on the platform my colleague from Proudly South African, Janine Franz Stratton, who is Executive for Strategy, Stakeholder Relations and Legal, and to give us a presentation representing Proudly South African, just to give you, an overview and context in regards to how we, as the Buy Local campaign and as the advocacy campaign of the country, where we fit into the whole scenario. Welcome, Janine, and please go ahead and with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Happy, and good afternoon, colleagues. It's lovely to be with you again, and also taking this opportunity to wish you a very prosperous 2020. It gives me great pleasure then to share with you just some background information on Proudly South African and where we fit in the picture specifically when it comes to work done in the public sector in terms of promoting local. I am gonna, like Tafatswa said, if it's all okay with you, I'm gonna switch off my camera so that I can really focus on the presentation, and I'll take you through some slides. And there's also a video at the end. Thank you. Brilliant, my presentation should show now. So for those of is it, thank you very, very much, Happy. For those of you who might not be familiar with the Buy Local campaign, that's us, Proudly South African. And we have been established by NEDLAC, and that was in 2001. So we are in our 21st year, or we are turning 21 this year. And we were established by NEDLAC really to create a buzz around locally made products and services, to make sure in as much as possible that the private sector buy local, the individual consumers do the same, and we're working with government to see where it is that they can buy local. So we're working very closely with Catherine and her office, and Tafatswa, they're all our colleagues, and we work really, really close. We've got a very close relationships with them, and it's really a pleasure to be working with them and also to host you today. So we work very closely with various departments. And as for the obvious reason, why are we? It's really because it stimulates job creation. So we really implore South Africans, whether they have in a personal capacity, because we're all consumers sitting on the call today, we're all consumers in our own right, the private sector and then the public sector, to buy local. Even though we cannot always pinpoint exactly the impact our work has on employment figures, it is very easy to see the dire impact it has when a factory has to close down, for instance. We know that communities get affected, and we all know that one wage or one salary supports more than just one person in our country. And it's really, really sad when factories do close down, businesses close down where people are then unemployed. So we do know the effects that it has on communities, individuals in general. Our 4 key focus areas, so I've mentioned the public sector, private sector, and work we do in the consumer space. But of course, it's also to promote accessibility of locally made products and services. So it's all very good and well to say, hey, buy local. But if you don't know where to find it, it is a problem. So we really thought long and hard, how can we create systems and tools to make it easy for people to buy local? So of course, with consumers, it's consumer education. When it comes to the private sector, it's all having a procurement tool in place, which we've got. We have portals on our website, but how can we make it easy for the public sector to buy local? We are a membership-based organization. So if you look at our logo on the left-hand side, you'll notice the colors of the flag. That's representative of local content for us. The big green tick in the middle is representative of quality. And those are 2 of the predominant factors that we look at when we do invite companies to become members of our organization. Not just anybody who imports can utilize something that's made in another country. No. We check for local content, and we make sure that they adhere to the industry standards that are in place. So we work quite closely with the regulators, with SABS, etc., to make sure that we know that products that carry the Proudly SA logo, which belong to our members, do adhere to all the quality standards of each industry. Then we also look at the corporate responsibility of each organization joining our fold as a member. So are they looking after the environment? What's the environmental policy like? Are they treating their employees fairly? Do they adhere to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act? So any organization that comes to us wanting to be a member, we vet them first. And once they've gone through the vetting process, they're then eligible to become a member of Proudly South African. So they do pay a membership fee, and then they have the rights to use the logo. Of course, we work very closely with them because some companies bring in product. Very importantly, some bring in product from abroad. Those are not allowed to carry the Proudly SA logo. Only products made locally are allowed to carry the logo. So I know we've seen a lot of discrepancies with PPEs, for instance, companies that are acting as a middleman. Even companies who are manufacturing bring in certain of their products and sell them. So we have to be quite strict about that. And as we all know, generally PPE falls under the textile elements, and those are designated at 100%. So we have to be very, very careful when we do vet companies that come on board. And then where does it all fit in? So I've made mention about, we ask the public sector to do the right thing. So it brings us to the local procurement accord. And Catherine has gone through all the highlights for me. So I'm not going to delve too long into this, but what for us is very, very important that the public sector, that you in your capacities adhere to designation. And where a product is not designated, we really plead with you to implement Regulation 9.3. And that talks about where there's no designated sector, if you could please, in a tender scenario, specify local procurement. And then you can stipulate a minimum threshold for local production and content, so that we can ask, and we do ask each and every province that we go and talk at, or talk with, or spend the day with, to say to them, please, can you self-designate as much as possible? I know a lot of the provinces have come up with wonderful, unique opportunities whereby they are buying from the province. First and foremost, before they go elsewhere in the country to buy, And I really think that's something that must be applauded. So we really appeal to each and every province, please self-designate as much as possible and stipulate that as such when there is an opportunity available for the private sector, for companies to do business with you. So of course the consideration is for constitutional and legal compliance, economic and fiscal consideration, then of course promotion of SMMEs, looking at your geographical footprint, and of course technological capabilities. Catherine had mentioned the designated sectors. We have added cement to our list. So we really are excited for this list to grow more and more. I know it's on the cards for sanitizers to be designated. So watch this space. We really look forward to this list this list to increase. And I think it's you know, the public sector often is the beacon for the private sector. What the public sector does, the private sector will follow suit. So it's wonderful to see that dynamic take place also. And then also we are embarking on a wonderful exercise with National Treasury, whereby on the central supplier database, we want our members to be, we want our members to almost stand out. It's important to know for those who are buying that they know that this product is made locally, meaning it's a Proudly SA member product. It's made locally and then it's of high quality. So we are looking forward to our membership base syncing with National Treasury's central supply database. So we are going through all the hoops and signing off agreements, etc., to make sure that we adhere to all the CSD's requirements. When our membership system syncs with the CSD, that will just allow our membership base to also then be able to do business with government more easily, so that they can automatically be enlisted on the CSD, of course, provided that they abide by all the regulations that are required by National Treasury. This little email that you see here on the left, that works hand in hand with another big part of our work, and we have a tender monitoring function, which is really an algorithm. So it's a little internet system. I say it's little. It monitors over 800 websites, whereby government posts tenders, etc. We monitor those websites. We then we monitor them by inputting keywords pertaining to the designated sectors. So with regards to furniture, you will find on our list of keywords, table, chair, office, school, desk, etc. Wood, you know, all of those keywords have been inputted into our system. It monitors these 815 websites, it trolls through all of them. If there is a change on a page, we'll get notified of that. And we will then download the tender. And there are two elements to this exercise. We forward the tenders then to our member companies so that they can have first-hand access to bid for business, really. And then the second element is that we send the tender then to Catherine's desk, Catherine's office. And here Catherine and the team checks to see whether the correct local content threshold percentage has been captured. If it is there, if it isn't there, what they do is then they take it further, contact the entities that have that are responsible for that bid, and request them to make the change if it isn't correct. So it's quite a lengthy exercise because you need to get hold of colleagues on email or by phone. It is quite a timeless exercise. So that work does get done, and we also report on those figures that we do receive from Catherine in terms of compliance to designation. So we do pull thousands of tenders each quarter. A lot of them are, some are designated, others are from non-designated spaces, but we do catch these tenders and then do that due diligence. So in the bigger scheme of things, if I can put everything in one beautiful document for you, how the workflow happens, we are waiting for that CSD integration to take place. And then the work that Proudly SA does, we work then with Catherine's team in terms of the designated items. we then pull these tenders, RFQs from our tender monitoring algorithm, and then we track them. We then identify manufacturers who could possibly be potential bidders for those tenders, and we forward it onto them. And then we help correct. When we say we help correct, it's we give Catherine and the team an opportunity to have access to these tenders. And then very important is we need the response from the bidders. So that is I think one element in terms of the evaluation that we can maybe strengthen on. So we're quite adamant, and hopefully we can that could be something that could be strengthened in this whole value chain. If we look at past years, so this is what our system has picked up, and if you look at the designation local content compliance, we've picked up, you'll see the total column. So it's the second one from the bottom, the second line from the bottom. You'll see each year how many tenders we've picked up in the designated space. And then the compliance is the percentage at the bottom. So this gives you an idea for each year. The 2019-2020, there was a 68% compliance up from 43% the previous year. And then we've also got the latest quarters on. Of course, when we've got the final figures for 2020, 2021, we'll also include those here. But I know for a fact the year that has passed has not been quite a strong year, but I know we did end in terms of compliance for quarter 3. Compliance was 70%, which is I think an all-time high, which really has to be commended for the public sector for really upping the game a lot in that regard. And then, of course, the work that we do is education. And we work with our colleagues to host events such as these with each province every year. So we really aim to educate our colleagues in the public sector. So we bring with us the likes of Catherine and Tafadzwa and SABS, etc. Sometimes the Auditor General, etc. We'll bring them with us to these events. We also are looking to host a national event at our Buy Local Summit and Expo this year, which I know Happy's working with our colleagues in National Treasury. We also working with a lot of the municipalities. So that is something that's coming up for us in the new year, as well as the metros. So we do need to reach as many colleagues as possible. We also on the state-owned enterprise procurement forum. We also on that forum, and we often deliver similar presentations on a yearly basis. And then also just to make mention, we've when COVID struck, I think the country was really we almost froze for a second, and the DTIC did an amazing job in terms of getting all the intel available, who is making PPE, who can make PPE, etc. And we were working quite closely with them as well as SACTU to bring to South Africa a face mask portal so that standalone designers can keep busy, that they don't shut down, so that they can have some sort of income during COVID when it was hard lockdown. We also approached with the Bargaining Council, SACTU, etc. We approached companies that are manufacturing clothing items that can now start manufacturing face masks. And we established a face mask portal. But that has really paved the way for us to include various other portals on our website. So that includes hand sanitizers, detergents, disinfectants, face shields, blankets and baby wear. And also our latest portal is furniture, which we're very proud of. So we find that it's easy to segment by product type, really, where our members are on the bigger spectrum, so that we can go and ask the public sector, buy local as much as possible. We are undergoing an exercise to ensure that all of those companies are listed on our portals. Also, then we make sure that they're also on the CSD, so that we can really secure, or at least not secure, but really put them in the best space possible, so that they can operate and continue employing South Africans, which is really, really needed for us right now. And then in terms of the consumer education work that we do, I have no doubt that you've seen this wonderful ad that we've put out. It's called Game Time, and it's by our favorite Dr. John Carney, who's the president in this advert. And before I play it, I wonder if because we have reached the end of my presentation, maybe I could bring Happy. And Happy, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but is there anything else you'd like to maybe add to the consumer education element before I play the ad?
Yes, thanks, Jenny. Just to quickly say that, you know, this commercial or this narrative is informed by the fact that we of the view that, you know, we're all consumers one way or another, whether you are sitting in the public sector space or private sector space. Ultimately, we're all consumers, and this commercial speaks to all of us from that point of view. And we came up with this concept mid-COVID last year, where we used it as a reminder to the broader audience, as in South Africans, to remind us to use that period to pause and rethink our loyalty to South African products and South African services, and to hold hands and to go back into the economy space in our respective spaces, and work hard at reviving and reigniting our economy for the betterment of our people. And that's what the commercial is about. Thanks, Ginny.
Thank you so much, Happy. I'll play it. I'll play it now for our colleagues. Thank you.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us what we sometimes forget, but it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
There we go. That's all from me today, and I'll be online for questions. Thank you very much, colleagues, and enjoy the rest of your day with us.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And before you disappear off of the screen, there is one question for you, and I thought I'd take advantage of that. There's somebody online who is saying, Kemiso Motolo would like to, he says is a sanitizer manufacturer, and obviously saw the portal that you presented, and they want to know, how they can join the movement. You want to quickly let them know?
Wonderful. Yes, for sure. I would like to suggest that you send an email to info@proudlysa.co.za. That's info@proudlysa.co.za. And on the other line who'll be catching your email is Alicia. She's our membership manager, and she'll assist you through the process, quick and easy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Janine. Thank you so much for giving us a broader overview of how we fit into this whole jigsaw puzzle, I call it, for the benefit of colleagues who may be on the line, who may not quite know, what our role is from a local procurement perspective. Thank you so much, Janine. Much appreciated. Thank you. Alrighty, so with that said, please keep, engage with us, send us questions, comments, or whichever area that you want us to give you clarity on. Thank you so much for that, Janine. It is much appreciated. And now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the MEC for Free State Provincial Treasury, MEC Khadija Abraham Brown. MEC, a warm welcome to you. Always such a pleasure to see your name pop up and to know that you've said yes to an invitation from Proudly South African. We can never hear enough, from your wealth of knowledge and the passion with which you do your work, and your Proudly South African turbans, of course, is what I look forward to all the time.
Thank you so much, our program director, Ms. Happy Ngidi, and it is absolutely an honor and a pleasure to be presenting to this platform annually. And I believe, and I'm progressively one of those people who advocates Proudly South African, manufacture local, sell local, buy local. It's one of the greatest ways to ensure that the money flow remains within the economy that we're operating in. And something that I learned in the private sector growing up as a very young girl was that the only way to grow your business is to reinvest in the communities that you're operating in. So with that vision coming from the private sector and the determination and the regulation from the public sector, and the will and the skill and the expertise coming from business and civil society, I think we can ensure that we advocate and really implement everything that was stated today. I also want to congratulate the two previous presenters. I think the context is very important, not only to our challenging economy. We see how it has affected some of our key statistics and key indices that we utilize to drive growth, to formulate strategy, to put together policy documents in order to ensure that we look at a forward and a change in the way we try and develop our country. So I think these presentations are key and critical to some of our cabinet conversations, not only at a provincial level, but also at a national level, towards renewing, rebuilding, and restructuring our South African economy. It has been very difficult over the past 2 years due to the global pandemic, but I can see that things are looking up, the trajectory is looking up, and the only way we're going to beat the challenges that we're going to face, and part of it is our debt to GDP and the increased borrowing, part of it is to create a society where we are beneficiating, where we are industrializing, where we are manufacturing, and we're distributing not only for South Africans, but for Africa and the globe. So I think this is a key platform to be able to discuss those fundamental policy issues. But also what I love about this platform, Happy, is that it is also very detailed, very practical. You have information at hand, you've got email addresses, you've got portals, you've got systems and databases that are ready, that are operating, and that are already in processes to assist with some of the work that we still have to do as South Africans. So allow me to acknowledge you once again, Program Director, and in his absence, the Chief Executive Officer of Proudly South African, Mr. Eustace Mashimbe. And then, of course, all our presenters today, Catherine, Janine, Zukiza, and Sello, our city manager in Mangaung. I just like to, all the names on the presentation, allow me to acknowledge them as well. And then the leadership and the board members of Proudly South African. I know there are some senior government officials, SCM Finance and other officials that are on the platform today. Let me welcome you, members of the business fraternity, members of the media, our civil society and Free State citizens, and all on this platform. And allow me as well to take this opportunity to compliment due for our new season. I think we have to end that statement by February. But yes, I trust that 2022 is going to be a prosperous year. I'm not going to be very, very long, but I am going to just touch on some key critical issues, and perhaps I should also put off my video. I think that might work so that we could look at the presentation at hand. I just want to switch it off if I can. I don't know if I can. Yes, I can. I just need to open this. No, I don't know how, because everything has gone so small. But nevertheless, so I'd like to state that Proudly South African has really made us as Free Staters very, very excited. And I think this entity, as part of the DTIC, is really led by integrity and high skill. And I think over the years, I've seen its trajectory and its growth. And I believe that it can only grow from strength to strength. Personally, all my clothing that I wear on traditional days are proudly South African. The jacket that I'm wearing today is by Lady Kana that I purchased at the airport at OR Tambo. But what I'd like to start off with is our president's statement. Our president, during the January 8th, had declared, and I quote, "Our economy has been gravely damaged. Millions are without jobs and rely on social help for survival. While the rate of our economic recovery has been better than expected, it is still not ideal. It has not been ideal, and the resources required to alleviate poverty, unemployment, and inequality have been insufficient. Women and young people have felt the burden of this adversity in particular," and I close quote. And what I'd like to take out of our president's statement during January 8th is that despite resources that we need or require to alleviate poverty and unemployment and inequality, programs like this address those three core factors. And we could utilize state resources through our procurement processes to ensure that we address poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And specifically through the private sector too, we could use the preferential procurement system that the private sector, through various charter formations based on the sector charters, we could look into that in a lot more detail to also address those key burdening issues that this country is facing. So as a result, I believe that we are obligated to have such platforms and explore ideas on how to translate this political statement into something more tangible as we promote and harmonize our economic plans as government within the private sector and in the public sector. And I know that this entity is one of the flagship entities that is able to do that. So some of the engagements program director that we have, not only within government, but as we present to our public, these are imperative in the sense that our communities are looking forward to these engagements because, like today, they are able to learn something and understand that, for example, sanitizers are a requirement on our database, and it just requires an email to be placed on there. So without programs such as these, and without communicating and without ensuring that we take information to our people, we will not have this broad-based understanding of opportunities for South Africans out there. And if it is planned as well, it is planned today, the procurement process, its transparency, its predictability, its fundamental requirements from functionality, price, and all the prescripts, we would be able to envisage any challenges together with our upcoming local entities to ensure that they do also have access to some of our type of support functions and opportunities within government. And we as Provincial Treasury, we continue to demonstrate our commitment, not only in the province, but across the executive and across municipalities, And I'd like to now present how we do that in the ambit of the law. So today, I'm not going to go into too much detail from a legal perspective in terms of the triple PFA and the preferential procurement regulations, but I want to talk on 2 slides, and that really is the strategy of our province and what it is that we want to do as a province to promote buy local and how we can integrate that into our policy framework. So part of our process, and I've placed the process chart because they all interact in various components of each other. If you are an engineer and if you are a process strategy person, you'd be able to understand that the circle here would be able to allow us to leapfrog over one process to the other and go back from one process to the other. So what we find is that we've had to do a study as government to understand which is our most demanded items. And that can change from medium-term expenditure framework process to medium-term expenditure framework process. And that could be 3 years on 3 years, or it can change annually. So for example, when the state of the disaster was promulgated, we did not anticipate that sanitizers, masks, and PPEs would be one of the most demanded items that the public sector would be procuring. So we analyzed what are the most demanded items, and we needed to understand as a province, what is the value of those most demanded items so that we could look at a procurement strategy. And it's important when you are a skilled procurement officer or an SM officer. And in that way, when you understand the value and the quantities, you are able to determine whether it should go on a tender or if it should be quotation basis. You would be able to then understand the specifications. You'd be able to understand the detail required prior to taking out any tender documents to ensure that you can make this procurement as broad-based as possible, that you could incorporate as many people into a tender as possible, that you could make it part of designated groups and the ability to transform or empower certain groupings within the economic and sector environment. So that then determines the value and quantity, determines the procurement strategy, and that procurement strategy then is then related into specifications, which then talks to a specifications committee and the manner in which we want to bring up the procurement strategy. What we've then also stated as a province is that depending on the demanded items and the gross demand within the province, we then can identify pop-ups in terms of industries. So we've had over the past couple of years, we've had people manufacture sanitizers locally, masks locally, hospital linen locally, uniform for nurses and doctors, because we've had many more temporary nurses. Those temporary teachers that came in, masks had to be manufactured. We've had to make sure that we find effortless ways of looking at the skill, because as you would understand, the Free State historically used to be a textile environment through the Botshabelo Industrial Park, Putadichaba Industrial Park, and now we've got an SEZ. So we tried as much as possible as a province to bring up and put together an industry database so that we could look at local manufacturers in the sector. And today I'm just using the PPE and the COVID-19 as an example of some of the work that we've done, but we've also done it for furniture in the past. We've also done it for toilet paper in the past and other commodities that we used to purchase a lot for or from. We did transversal contracts in the past for events management, for stationery as such, so that we could ensure that within the local environment, young people and people who have got the capacity to do the supply demand process, they were from the Free State. So we then built the value, the quantity, our procurement strategy, development through Destia and industry. And we've had to look at procurement regulations because largely we wouldn't have wanted to be able to have the strategy, procure, and then there would be irregularities across the board, there would be non-availability of product, there would be quality of product that has declined, whatever it may be, and then timeframes and so on. We're also looking at incentivizing for local manufacturers, as well. So if we found, for example, in municipalities, we had to, for example, do pipelines or additional water meters, if they were prepared to develop, to distribute such products into our municipalities, we ask the question first, do you have the capacity to manufacture whichever product you are selling to us here, so that we could look at providing some incentives, and that could be on electricity, water services, labor, etc. So the incentive strategy also had to come into play to promote and encourage investors to settle and manufacture in the Free State, and also ensure that it would be good for them in terms of profitability as well, and to ensure that the industry is allowing for a competitive advantage to other areas of the province, so that they wouldn't spend so much on distribution costs, traveling costs, and so on and so forth. Part of the work that we've had to do as Treasury is also the due diligence. So, for example, with the PPEs, when we sent out a tender, we ensured that they were SAPRA accredited. We ensured that the Department of Health vetted the items. So they tested the sanitizer to ensure it wasn't water that they were selling us with a little bit of spirits that was in there to make it smell good. That was the stuff that was going around at the time. So we had to do relevant due diligence to ensure that the product that was being sold to us was 100% accredited and aligned to our specifications. And then we placed them on a database, and then we followed procurement processes. So that was some of the work that we've done in the past. And I think our strategy, and you could see with our SIU report that went out today, we've been vindicated on a lot of some of the allegations in the past where there was political interference in some of the awards to some contractors or suppliers, and they found no irregularities. There was only one issue with regards to coveralls, which Treasury hadn't paid. The coveralls were manufactured somewhere, just distributed in the province, but they were manufactured and presented as sterilized coveralls, but they came to us as non-sterilized coveralls. Treasury didn't pay that, so there was no irregularities there or no losses there. And then there was one or two service providers that weren't tax compliant, but they went through a tender process. So that was how we were able to manage some of the irregularities that popped up with some of our PPE matters in the Free State. So ideally, what is the function of trying to put together such a strategy? And partly is to really focus on set-asides, designated groups, and in terms of the triple PFA, it's very clear. It's women, youth, people living with disabilities, people in rural entities or environments, and military veterans. So we're trying at best to ensure that happened. And then also development and growth of business streams and diversity as well, so that, unfortunately, when it comes to tenders, if everybody thinks, okay, catering is the flavor of the day, everybody goes to do catering, school, retail, PPEs, whatever it may be. So we just needed an economy and a sector base that was highly diversified and the ability to be able to meet the demands of the public procurement environment at every level, and not ensuring that portfolio of eggs are in one basket. So we needed to manage that as well. Development of industries, our local and rural GDP in terms of our contribution to the national economy is 5.2%. And we really would like as a province to see that growing. And the only way is if we can find agriculture, the primary sector, industrialization and manufacturing grow quite vastly within the province, to shift our contribution of our local GDP to a bigger and greater way. So we've got to focus on how to do that. And then also the upgrade, development and marketing of our industrial parks, and our growth strategy as Free State provincial government together with the executive. That needs to also, or needed also to be a large focus in terms of building the foundation of our province. Now, To add to it, our MEC of this year had been so wonderful and kind to designate a draft-free state local economic development and transformational bill. I just want to go into his bill quickly, and I hope you can still see my presentation. If I can just open this a little bit, just to see if you are able to see it. I don't know how to open it. Okay, but nevertheless, so part of his bill and the objectives of this bill is to grow an inclusive economy that harnesses the potential of all citizens and persons within the province, diversify ownership patterns, and facilitate easier access to new entrants in those sectors of the economy. And the objective of the bill is to provide a regulatory framework which makes it possible for free staters to establish viable and thriving businesses wherever they live. So that could be in a rural environment, to designate businesses and business activities within the township area that are usually reserved and exclusive of and sole of those use of those specific citizens, to promote and develop and diversify the economy of the province through regulation and participation of enterprises in those sectors, to introduce an enabling framework to ensure retail malls, supermarkets partner with local enterprises so that we could ensure that our malls have a bigger footprint of local entities, retailers, manufacturers, and so on, where they would have access and footprint to sell their products, and where a lot more consumers would gather to be able to purchase, to establish a specific procurement rule that is programmatic towards what government requires in terms of regulations. So the economies of scale, your 90-10 principle, your 80-20 principle, your functionality and price principles, so that could help with regards to be able to integrate some of the challenges that we're seeing in the framework of SEM. And then to implement local economic development and implement an integrated business licensing regime, and also to assist with permitting and licensing within local environments to ensure that there's no illicit trading within our townships, and to implement an integrated business to develop and support representatives of associations and enterprises at a local level, and then of course at a provincial level. So that then is encompassed in this document that I'm presenting here. I've placed on a slideshow, so it just helps with the way we look and read and be able to contextualize that. Now, I'm going to close, but I'm not going to go through all these slides, because those who are in the supply chain environment would know the prescripts very, very well. And I think we've overexerted our discussions with regards to legislation. But I think what is important is that the preferential procurement regulations does allow for, and our policy frameworks does allow for us to be able to look at a bidding system where it integrates triple BE, it integrates a balanced scorecard, it integrates good code of practice. We also want to talk about our cabinet resolution 38 that was approved in May 2007, that we would like to ensure that we purchase from 70% of our supplies should be from the Free State on SMME level and cooperatives, and that from a micro enterprise support program across industry, across infrastructure, across goods and services, we've got to find a way to ensure that our SCM process allows that and promotes that. And we've been able to do that not only through the triple PFA, but we've also been able to do that through how we dealt with the set-asides and how we dealt with specifications and how we dealt with the following, which is the pre-qualifying of tenders through the triple BE status level, the pre-qualification of EMEs and QSEs, and our subcontracting. So we ensured that our large companies who, for example, with CIDB 6 and upwards, would ensure that from a subcontracting perspective, we would have them present to us how they'd make sure that the local community would benefit, and how designated groups within those local communities would benefit through subcontracting through them. And then we've also outlined that our regulation states that an organ of state must, in case of a designated sector, advise the tender with a specific tendering condition that states that only locally produced goods or locally manufactured goods meeting the stipulated minimum threshold for local production content will be considered. And that then also goes onto a specifications document. Similarly, with the subcontracting, as I earlier outlined, and then a National Treasury, again, with the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, they do continue to identify those designated sectors, and we pull information from that document that was just earlier presented. We pull that information, and we pull our local information as well on the BAS and the LOGIS systems. And then we, in terms of pricing and also functionality, there is a marking system, there is a qualification system, there is a system where we pre-review some of the goods and services to ensure that they are in line with what is required from the entity that's buying. And the idea of distribution, where you purchase from a manufacturer or you purchase from a wholesaler supplier like Checkers, such as the ones I've outlined there, we also have some sort of process in which we manage that. And like the previous speaker states, that if there is just a label that says it's proudly South African, we too are able to see whether it is local or whether it has been purchased from a wholesaler or a manufacturer outside, not only of the province, but of our country. And then our cost, markup, profit, cost price, those are all very transparent. And we ask for that in terms of what is the profitability margins that they're making, so that we could see as well from a manufacturing to distribution to the end user, and then to ourselves in terms of the efficiency, the equitable and the fairness of how we evaluate tenders as well. And then latest stats, yes, as Treasury, we do look at blacklisted companies. We do go through systems where we are able to see if you're not compliant. We do have a lot of issues with fronting in the province, and we're able to pick that up. We look at if you are able to comply to the contract conditions and the performance. We look at historic work. So all of those are taken into consideration when we look at tenders and some of the work that we're procuring from our local contractors. I think that in terms of, let me see if there's anything else, and I've left this presentation with the team, so it would be, you'd be able to receive a copy of it. And I had spoken about the bill, and we've also discussed the oversight role Treasury plays in equipping businesses, but also the long-term due diligence that we do to ensure that businesses are at the level that we require for government work. And yeah, how our systems, we do have systems, e-tender portals, quotations are very, very much transparent. We send them out through advertisements or on bids. And CSD registrations, our team is able to assist you with that if you require any information. And yeah, so I think for those of you who are service providers outside that are listening, you start with the registration of your company, but I mean, most of you should have companies. You register on the CSD, you ensure that your company is tax compliant, you ensure that you are also making the necessary arrangements with SARS if you're not tax compliant, to update your information on CSD, your banking accounts, your compliance of tender documents, total cost of ownership, the industry that you want to procure, if not manufacturer or retailer. And then what type of goods or services you perform with whichever contract that you've got in terms of their conditions, your joint venture agreements, your relevant documentation, DTIC affidavit, your BBB certificates, your SANA validation. And then I know that there are some verification issues and scans through CSD. So you know that there is some work that we as Treasury can also assist you on. And yes, I think that is it from my side, but I would like to continue to thank the leadership of Brand South Africa and Proudly South Africa and the DTIC and the teams for your commitments and your ability to continue with this plight. And you know, if you are South African and you know that you've got kids and you envision grandkids and living here for many years, you know that the only way to develop our country and to ensure its sustainability and to ensure that we still have such a beautiful country 20, 30, 40 years from now is through developing our people first. And part of developing our people first is ensuring that our people have access to the mainstream economy. And that is not only to be able to do something started here and ended here. It must be across all sectors, across the value chain, across the entire farm to fork, I mean, your outputs, your inputs, whichever theory you want to come from, business management perspective, it is imperative that people have access to the mainstream economy through different tiers and across all sectors. And we need to continue to develop, continue to advocate, and continue to push that. Otherwise, we will find that we will be a purchasing state, a consumer state, and not really being able to build the capital required with our natural resources, but largely become a social state, which we're really trying to work away from through our NDP and through our vision 2030, and trust that as we all work together, we will ensure that we build the South Africa jointly as tenacious South Africans we are. So thank you so much. Thank you for this magnificent opportunity, and I would like to once again say I'm grateful and I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, MEC. As usual, your inputs and your insights are very well received by us. We always look forward to what you have in place and what your office is doing in the context of local procurement. And I think there is no question that the beat goes on. There's a lot of work that your office is doing and continues to do every time we engage you, which is so pleasing to see. And your opening remarks earlier on put a smile on our faces when you mentioned that you're wearing a jacket you bought from Lidikana at the airport, who happens to be one of our members. So it's great to see that you continue walking the talk like you've always done in terms of supporting local products and services, even in your personal capacity. MEC.
Thank you so much, Happy, and yes, always. And for
there is one quick question. You may need to run off, MEC, but if you'll indulge me for 2 minutes. Gemiso Mutolo says that thank you so much for your presentation, and she just wants to understand, he just wants to, I'm not too sure if we're talking to a lady or a gent, wants to understand by database, what do you mean? Do you mean CSD, or does Free State have a separate provincial database? Because they've been on CSD for the longest time, but have never received an RFQ from any Free State government or municipal entity for their products.
All right. Yes, and there's a follow-up question that I've also seen there from the same representative, Gemiso, that we've registered as a service provider on a few government entities, and we've overlooked for business as a manufacturer. Instead, business is given to the middleman who either import or buy products from outside suppliers. What role do you as Free State Treasury play in ensuring that local manufacturers are prioritized? Now, thank you very much. Kemiso, congratulations for being a local manufacturer in our province. Yes, we are. I am referring to the CSD, but the Department of Economic Business, Small Business Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs also has a database. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you Linda Riddle's number. I'm going to be advising her. I'm going to screenshot this, and I'm going to be advising her that you're going to call her. Her number is 079-892-2298. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type it in here, 079-892-2298. And Linda, if you're here, I apologize in advance that I'm giving your cell phone number out to the public. But I think what is important is that if we could just assist Kemiso as well as anyone else who has been having concerns not being able to tender or provide quotations to Free State provincial government, if we could understand where the challenges are, if it has got to do with compliance issues, or if it is just an issue where he's overlooked and why, so that we could dig deeper into the issue, and then we'd be able to answer it more clinically than just you know, an assumption that I might just provide you right now. So if I can ask you to contact Linda, if you could drop me Happy and Lesejo, if you could drop me the number of Kemiso as well, so that I could get one of my team members to follow up with him or her. I'm not sure as well if it's a male or female, but I could follow it up as well. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, MEC, for indulging us. We really, really appreciate your time. And in the event that you have to leave this online platform before the session ends, I just want to thank you on behalf of the CEO of Proudly South African, in his absentia. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to have you online and you know, engage with you on this platform. And we hope that the pandemic will be a lot kinder to all of us this year, and we can hop into a plane and come visit your province soon. Thank you so much.
I'd love that. And I want to say I miss the interaction and the people interaction. And, you know, the only way you know whether your audience is really, really accepting your conversation is through facial expressions. I do really miss that. But thank you once again, Happy. And if you would excuse me, I'd really, really appreciate that. I'm also busy with my MBA, so I'm in between exam prep, so I would love to be excused. But to everyone and those listening, continue building the Free State that we want, and good luck for this next upcoming year, 2022. And my budget speech is going to be on the 10th of March this year in Karibdam. So if you are really interested, you'd find us on all social media, and you're welcome to listen to some of the budget appropriations over the next financial year. Thank you so much, Happy. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, MEC. Goodbye. Have a great day, Fed. So that was the MEC, Ms. Khadija Abrahams-Brown, MEC Free State Provincial Treasury. You know, always such a great honor and pleasure to have her join us and chat to us every time we call on her office to come contribute to this discussion. And moving along with our program, I will now invite Mr. Zuki Sankonzo, Auditor, South African Bureau of Standards, SABS, to address us. He is our second last speaker, and then we'll hear from Mr. Silomore shortly after Mr. Nkonzo. Go ahead, please, Mr. Nkonzo. And a very warm welcome, rather. There you go. Thank you so much. Great to see you. Please unmute.
Yes, I did, but I'm trying to share now the presentation. Are you able to see the presentation? Okay.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay, we're getting there.
All right, thank you.
You will let me know when you see it, please.
Yes, it's on the screen. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, I'm trying to put it on the presentation mode. Yes, thank you very much. My name is Keith from SABS. I'm here just to give you an overview of what SABS does and how do we then conduct local content verification. SABS was established some time ago in 1945. Oof, I don't know what's going on now. I'm trying to minimize this. Yes. SABS was established in 1945 and with three objectives. First one was to develop and promote and maintain South African national standard, promote quality with respect to commodities and product and services, render conformity assessment and matters connect. And I think the last objective speaks to what we are doing today. For the last time I'm checking my audibility. Can you hear me? Hello? Chairperson, can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Zuki, so we can hear you.
Okay. We report to DTI. If you look at the graph here, you will see that we, under the standardization and quality assurance accreditation and metrology institution, these four entities here report to DTI. It's SABS, NRCS, SANAS, and NAMISA. Our duties are simple. We do standardization, develop standard, we do certification, we do product testing. And at this moment in Africa, SABS has got the largest laboratories and we capitalize in that particular area by testing some of the products that are used in the power generation. We do test some other product, but the NETFA is the biggest one that we have at the moment in Africa. We even test product for the African countries. If one wants to know where are we are in Cape Town, East London, Newcastle, Secunda, as well as in Pretoria. We do different offerings. Like I've mentioned earlier on, we do standard, we develop standard through the help of the community that has experience in that particular standard. Let's say, for an example, if we were to develop a new shoe standard or a standard for the shoes, we'll have to talk to people who understand the shoe better than anyone else. And through those discussions, then we form up a standard that will govern a shoe. Then we have training centers where we provide training on the standard. You know, people want to implement standard, but they don't know how to implement the standard. So therefore, SABS comes in and sell the standard and also provide a training so that we can be effectively implementing your standard as per the standard requirement. We all offer advisory and we do give some entrepreneurs technical support, and as well as to make sure that we allow them to use standard in order for them to keep their business standing. We offer certification and also we offer testing of products. This is what we've looked at as SABS. We've realized that in the past it has been a requirement for, I don't know what's going on now. It has been a requirement, sorry about that. It has been a requirement for anyone who wants to have to do business with the organs of state that the person must have a quality management system that has been certified by SABS. Then throughout the years, the system certificate has been the winning formula. And then we've realized that if the local content comes into effect, and companies will definitely make that as a second scorecards in order for them to score such a project within the state, the organs of state. And what we've realized as SABS, we thought that if customers will require certification and verification of products and systems, and also they will make sure that they need the local content certificate in order for them to be more competitive than the people who take things from overseas and distribute within the country. So therefore, local content is only designed for people who are within the country that are willing to manufacture and produce products locally. When we look at the value chain, we've just picked up a few things, and we look at the water supply, safety clothing, water conveyance, and structural and electrical components. If we talk about the water supply, we expect that if a municipality wants to transport water from a particular reservoir to a particular community, people who wants to participate in that particular project will have to supply water pipes, water connectors, insulation tapes, as well as the water pumps, which they use to convey the water from the source to the local or to the community. Then if we look at the safety clothing space, when maybe we are under the impression that if anyone wants to supply staff to the organs of state in the PPE sector, one will supply the safety shoes, safety reflectors, and work suits. We are aware that these local content thresholds are stated differently. Some are 100%, some are not 100%. And what we've discovered that previously that safety reflectors aren't 100% completely because they carry a zip as well as the reflective line. So the reflective line, the last time I checked, was not produced in South Africa as well as the zip. So one cannot claim that a reflector is 100% at this point in time. I'm not aware of any industry that has started to manufacture reflective sheeting in South Africa. Then we look at the third quadrant, which is the pumps, where we think that if one wants to convey water, how do you then convey this water as per the water supply requirements? You will need hydraulic pumps, you will need valves. When the tank that you are taking this water from the reservoir tank is full, the valve is able to stop the water, so the water doesn't go on waste. You also need some water manifold in the system that transport water. You will need to know that water meters within the community, because water needs to be controlled. You can't just let people have water. It's like electricity these days. We're looking at the fourth quadrant, which is the structural and electrical component. If then there is a new project of building school, obviously, or then you will need steel structures that needs to be made, and we need to make sure that we source that steel with the local steel mill. We need concrete bricks. Obviously, we'll need to use our own stone. We crush, we convert into a powder, and then the powder is converted into a mud, and the mud becomes the brick. And you're definitely going to need some corrugated sheet that manufactured locally. There are companies that manufacture corrugated sheet for the roofing purposes, and also you need electrical meters because you will wire your house and or your building, and therefore you need to control the electricity flowing in there. Then this particular slide speaks at the process. How do we then do the local content? Request for the verification sent to SABS. Once we receive the request, we start now to scope the work. What is the scoping of work? We're looking at what is the job, what is needed to be done, and who else do we then bring into our team in order for us to be able to give a value add verification with this particular verification. So therefore, we make use of the information given to determine the right team. Once we've determined the right team, we'll start to check the quotation is issued for the verification process. But in this particular instance, we then make DTI aware that this is how much it will cost, and we carry on with the verification. When the verification is conducted, verification is carried out by two people. Actually, it's carried out by two competencies. It's your financial competency as well as a technical competency. Let's say, what does the financial competency does? They're looking at a transactional document that are used to procure the material. A technical guy will look at the product that is being supplied to make sure that this product has been declared clear. There is no part that is missing, so that we're able to give a value add verification with that product. Let's say, for an example, if we were to go and verify beans, for an example, someone claimed that these beans are planted, cooked and canned in South Africa. we'll not bring a civil engineer to that particular verification. We'll have to bring a food specialist, someone who understands these food issues here, so that it can add value to that particular process. When now the verification is being completed, we then start to compile the results. Remember, the technical guy has compiled his own report and the financial person did his own report, and this report are fused together to make one report. And this report becomes the results. And we will then give the report to DTI. And upon approval of the local content, we may issue a certificate or the report depending on the tendered local content database. What we do as SABS, once we finish with the product, we load into our database to indicate that if next week this tender has to a different BS report. No, we do a new verification because the person might then at that particular time procure some parts overseas and assemble and dispose. So we make sure that we give a value add to that particular verification. LCV process stages, I've explained, it's your primary stages. We talk to the supplier, we'll bring the supplier in, we explain what we're looking for, we track the supply, and then when we do the field work, it's where we do actually the real verification. Once the verification is been completed, we do the reporting, like I've mentioned in the previous slides. If one wants to know how do you then build the local content to your product, it's very easy. You need to have a physical plant. Within your physical plant, therefore you earn points for being in the physical plant. And you need to have local manufacturing activities that are taking place within the physical plant. Your local content threshold is increasing. You need to make use of the local produce input material. Let's say, for an example, if we were to bake a bread, and then bread is made out of few elements. It's your flour, sugar, yeast, as well as the salt and water as well. Let's say, for an example, if one element of that particular bread that is so expensive they get it from an overseas supplier, that particular element will then decrease the level of local content concentration. So we must be very mindful. We don't need to use what is available. We must use what is available and with the value of it being put in our product, because there is no point of wanting to deliver on time but compromising the local content, because maybe you don't have time to wait for someone else who's still milling a particular product, but there is a Chinese product on the other side that is ready. So if I were to be the person who supply, I would rather wait for the one who's processing what I need rather than taking what is available, knowing for a fact that this could compromise the local content verification, the local content of this product. Because when we do a local content, we do a traceability backwards. We will definitely get to know that a raw material at this particular stage was from an overseas supplier, but it has been converted throughout the process until it gets to the last stage. The fifth tier looked at the duplication at lower tiers of the supplier. What does that mean? It means that if you were to use input material, make sure this input material will also processed within our country. The minute you are using input material that are processed within our country, your local content becomes higher than it would have been if you were to buy input material from overseas. I remember very well when Ms. Catherine presented, she has mentioned that it is local content means make use of input material that are sourced local and use local people to produce such product. And if you comply with these 5 pillars, you're definitely going to meet the requirement of the PPPFA. The next slide, it gives you the formula that we use to tabulate this local content. And this local content is only a financial exercise, but we need a technical person to be able to assist the financial person to be able to, so that they can make an informed decision. Let's say, for an example, we're doing a local content verification for a car. Maybe the financial person doesn't have a technical knowledge of how a car should look like. And when you provide the information for us, you leave the 2 wheels out. Then a technical guy will be able to say, this car is not complete. Where are the 2 wheels? from the information you've provided. Then, therefore, then we make this financial or verification officer to be aware that there's something missing there. Please do probe for such information, so that when you do a composition, when you compute the local content, you at least understand that you gather all the information that was supposed to be part of the information provided. The formula is LC is equal to 1 minus X over Y, or multiply by 100, where the X is the important content in rand. Y is the bid price in rand, excluding VAT, then price referred to the determination of X must be converted to the rand by using exchange rate published by SAB. So definition of the local content is the same as the portion of the tender price that is not included in the imported content, provided local manufacturing takes place within the borders of South Africa. When we mean local content, we don't mean Free State only. Yes, do look within the Free State. But if Free State people are unable to provide, go to Durban, go to Eastern Cape, go to Cape Town, but look locally within the surrounding, because you want to cut the cost of transportation for what you are looking for. It is important also to look at our people's capability based before we even start to write the specification, if we have time to do so. If one wants to know where to get the local content information within the SABS, DTI gave us information. So some of the information is coming from the DTI, like the issue, the information such as the designated list. That is not our list, but we take it from the DTIC. So you go to www.sabs.co.za, you click and you go straight to local content. If you click at local content, then the next slide will take you to this page. In this page, there are two options. You look at this thing, you see now, if you want to know how this local content is carried out, guidance to document to calculation of the local content are placed in that particular folder. Local content declaration is there. Imported content declaration, Annexure D is there. Support schedule to Annexure C is there, which is Annexure E. Instruction note that we get from the DTI. I think even the Annexure C, D, E are coming from the DTI. So we are in partnership in doing this local content. Maybe one wants to know what SABS has verified previously. Obviously, our brochure has the information of what we verified, and the question that people keep on asking us is listed, and we consistently upgrade this question because we do get questions on a daily basis. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nkonzo, for your contribution. As always, it is greatly appreciated, taking us through the the realities of the work that you do as SABS in the context of our discussion here today. Thank you so much appreciated. I'm trying to see if you have any questions from any of our attendees, and I see there isn't anything as yet, but it is greatly appreciated. And can I just confirm that we can share your presentation with the attendees as well, like as per the norm?
Yes, please.
Would that be okay? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Alrighty, and now we will hear from our last but certainly not least speaker, in regards to today's conversation or discussion around local procurement, and De More, who is acting city manager, Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality. Mr. More, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. Greatly appreciate your time. May I please request that you take us through your presentation and switch on your camera and indulge us. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. More is, there we go. Thank you so much. I'm assuming there may be connectivity problems with Mr. More, but let me just.
I'm here, Chairperson. You can't hear me.
I can hear you now, sir, but there's a bit of a feedback in the background.
Gosh, I'm not sure what's happening. Let me just change the place where I'm seated at.
Okay. Can we try again?
Yeah, let's try. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's a lot better. That's much
Okay.
better. Please go ahead. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon for everyone who has attended the meeting. I want to sincerely apologize for joining the meeting late, but I might just reflect that as municipality, there's always 100 issues on the table. As I'm talking to you now, we had a meeting. In fact, the meeting is continuing with various stakeholders in relation to the same issues that are being raised here. But thanks very much, Chairperson. I'll continue with the presentation. Just maybe as a precursor, I think many of you would note that there was a shutdown last year in Mangaung, where one of the demands that were being made by those who were demanding from the city was the issues in relation to local procurement. There was a feeling that the city procures almost all its services from outside. So there was a demand, which I must say led to the change in terms of our own supply chain management policy. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, the outline of the presentation is an overview of Mangaung Metro, then a reflection on our capital procurement funding envelope, as well as our SEM policy provisions on supply chain management. Next slide, please. Okay, overview of Mangaung. Mangaung is the only metro in the Free State, centrally located within South Africa, accessible to the main roads, the N1, N8, as well as the N6. As I've said, is the only metropolitan municipality in the Free State. Always been regarded as judicial capital of the country. I'm not sure if you are still as the Constitutional Court is in Pretoria, for instance, but there we regard ourselves as such because the appellate court is here in Mangaung. So it's one of the 5 regional spaces within the Free State. What about 4 regions? And then Mangaung as a metro is some sort of a region as well. Yeah, we can continue. Now, still just explaining, Mangaung is a place of cheetahs, established in 2000 as a Category B local municipality and elevated in April 2011 as a Category A metro municipality. I think geographically we are the largest metro, even though by population size, we may not be the largest. In fact, we are the second smallest with regard to the population. It comprises of 7 towns, widely spread. To some of the towns, it's about 60 km from Bloemfontein to reach some of the towns. So it's Bloemfontein, on Mangaung, Botshabelo, Tabanchu, Diversdorp, Wepener, Van Stadensrus, and Soutpan. So Bloemfontein remains the administrative capital and economic trade hub. So is the, as I've reflected, is the largest metropolitan municipality by land and size, but the smallest by population of all metros. So the average population growth rate is 1.47 and low population density of 78.3 people per square kilometers. And it comprises of 51 municipal wards. As we continue. Okay, we are a largely grant-driven municipality. I think we know that the Free State is the second poorest province in the country. So we are largely driven, a grant-driven municipality. We depend mainly on the grants as well as the loans. But then we are able to generate some of the funds internally to deal with some of the procurement program of the city. We are trying to grow it because it's only when you grow procurement on capital projects that you can also be able to grow SCM processes or all things related to procurement. Next slide, please. So as I've said, our SCM policy was largely driven by the population uprisings, and it led to several changes on our policy. We committed our support to local enterprises through amendments, and to a large extent, I must say that amendments led to stability in the city, because the SCM policy is now responding to issues that affect the people directly. Our SCM policy provision in paragraph 23.13 called for local beneficiation with the following targeted goals: targeted labor, targeted area, targeted enterprises, targeted professionals, targeted supplier, targeted groups. As I've said, one of the main reasons was to say you cannot take a very big cake and always give it to outsiders without any consideration of people inside who may not necessarily have the big capacity, but reside in the city. Next slide, please. So the municipality has ensured that its policy is pro-local. In addition to the above mentioned initiatives, the following were also included as part of procurement of goods. We are saying any subcontracting of works to the value of 5 million should be done by only local enterprises. That subcontracting, we would not want to give that, or any enterprise that we contract should not give to anyone outside. Contractors are also required to set aside 1% of the contract value for the employment of interns or learnerships for contracts above 10 million. So functional points are also allocated for locality on identified procurement. So essentially, there are areas where we would allocate specific points in line with locality, particularly where we have identified that the solution that we want should come from locally. So the municipality has given local enterprises more opportunity to participate in local economic space and also broadened skills development opportunities. Next slide, please. So the municipality also incorporates provision of local production and content in its policy provision 23.10, and in compliance with such provision as per the circular issued by the Department of Trade and Industry. So the municipal SCA policy fully complies with regulation policy on local production and content. Next, please, I think could be done. Thank you very much. Essentially, that's the presentation that I had to make, Chairperson, with regard to Mangaung and local issues. And as I reflected, the key issue is localization. And we have a society or a community that keeps us on our toes with regard to localization. We've got a very woke community share. They keep us on our toes and they would want everything, including us, to be made in Mangaung. Thanks very much.
It's good to hear, Ndadumbo, that they're keeping you on your toes, you know, to do the right thing. It is expected, you know, of us as you know, as given the work that you do, right, to be held accountable and to follow policy and comply, you know, where we can at most times. So thank you so much for your contribution to this discussion. I know that we've been pulling you from pillar to post. You are busy putting out fires out there.
Lots
you said there's so much happening, but you showed up and you played your part. So we really honestly appreciate your time. I see there isn't any question or comment for you specifically. So we're gonna let you go and run off to your next engagement that you need to be at. But we thank you so much. And on behalf of Proudly South African, and on behalf of the CEO in his absentia, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, thanks very much for the opportunity, and we're looking forward to future opportunities, because I also learned a lot from particularly the last presentation on the standards. It's information that we can also utilize going forward in terms of our policy. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, sir. All righty, so that was Mr. Sello More, who we heard from just now, and he was representing Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality, and he is the acting city manager. Thank you so much, sir. Much appreciated. All right, everybody, we've come to the end of the discussion today, and I see that the chat box is pretty clear. We've dealt with what came in during the course of the discussion. With that said, it gives me great pleasure to close the session officially. But before I do that, I just want to thank Ms. Catherine Matita, who represented the DTIC Industrial Development Division. Thank you so much, Catherine, for your inputs today. And I also want to thank Ms. Tafatswa, who is from the furniture desk at the DTIC as well, who also made a contribution alongside Catherine. Thank you so much. Janine van Straten, my colleague from Proudly South African, thank you so much for presenting Proudly South African this afternoon. And MEC Khadija Abrahams Brown, in absentia, I did say thank you to her before she got off the call, but thank you to her office as well for making this possible. Mr. Zukisa Nkonzo, as usual, thank you for your time and your contribution. It is greatly, greatly appreciated at all times. And last but not least, our last speaker, Mr. Sello More, who just got off the call, Acting City Manager, Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality. Thank you to all of you who joined in today, colleagues from the Free State and everywhere else you we're logging on from. We hope that today's session was another eye-opener and a reminder of what it is that we are obligated to do in our respective spaces of work. And thank you to Proudly South African team for putting all of this together. Thank you, everybody. See you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a lovely afternoon further. Thank you so much. Bye.